Church, right there standing, will you guys give it up and let's receive in the house the blessing of having my son, spiritually and physically, Pastor Josue Rodriguez in the house. Come and preach it, baby. Take it, baby.
Woo! Shoot. Man, you don't know how special it is to be in a church, to be in this church, that chooses to start the year in January with a series like this, A Healer in This Place. In other words, this church decided to start the year by letting everybody know that miracles are real and that the one that works the miracle is in here. Man, that's gutsy right there. You know what it is to start the year like that? To the first thing you tell people, man, it's like me waking up in the morning, the first thing I tell my wife is, hey, miracles are real and God is here. It's like, shoot, that's gutsy right there. That just sets the pace for the entire year. Do you have any idea how good it is to belong to a church that actually believes that God is omnipotent? No. They don't have any idea. Any idea what it is to belong to a church that chose to not reduce the miracle-working power into taking cats down from a tree? This church starts with a series that chooses to not reduce the miracle-working power into taking cats down from a tree. Come on, play with me, man. Don't leave me. Don't leave me. I'm starting. I just get started. Play with me. I'll tell you when to leave me. Don't leave me alone. I got to be preaching to somebody. Preaching and belonging to a church that refuses to reduce the miracle-working power into taking cats down from a tree. I've seen churches that have reduced the miracle-working power into taking cats down from a tree. And don't get me wrong, God doesn't mind taking cats down from a tree. He'll do it because he pays attention to that many details. But the problem is that some people only trust him that much. We only trust him to the extent of the cats being taken down from a tree. But here at IChurch, this church is alive. This church is alive. This church believes in the miracle-working power and says that that healer that heals the sick is here. The one that heals the blind is here. Woo! Take a seat, take a seat. Okay, now you can leave me. I'm good. Man, son, bring me the table. Man, some of you guys don't know me. I know. My name is Josue Rodriguez, and you don't know me because this church grows so fast that I just left the other day, and there's already new people here. But you don't know me, but I used to work here. I used to work in this church. I helped build this church. I used to run the church. I came up with a couple of cool things in this church. And we are, yeah, baby. I used to work here, but then God called me to plant a church, and right now me and my wife are planting a church in Charlotte called Casa Viva Church, which, by the way, you can sponsor at www. No, I'm kidding. I'm completely kidding. I'm just completely kidding. If you want to help somebody, you are in the right place by being in this church. Because this church helps everybody, man. This church helps everybody. And maybe some people wonder why I left. And I'm decided to give you the inside scoop today, because I want to let you guys know what really happened. Yeah, because I was here. I used to work here. And then I decided to plant a church. And some people wonder, like, what the heck happened? Well, I'm going to tell you the inside scoop today. I'm going to give you the truth. Can you handle the truth? I'm going to give you the truth. It's a real story. One day I just walked in and I just told Pastor, yo, I'm sick of this. I want a raise. And he looked at me and said, man, F you. Forget you. Come on, we're pastors. We're pastors. You're dirty. He looked at me and said, forget you. And I said, this church sucks. And he told me, you suck. And I told him I could do it better. And he told me, I hate you. And I said, I hate you more. I walked out and I said, I'm planting a church in Charlotte. I'm sure that's what some of you want to think. And I'm sure that's a story that some of you made up in your mind. But let me tell you what truly happened. I love IChurch so much. I love IChurch so much. Dude, I love IChurch so much that I almost disobeyed God and not do it. Because that's how much I love this church. It was difficult. When God first told me it was difficult, I sat down in front of my pastor. I sat down with my wife. I cried my eyes out. I didn't know if I could do it. And I didn't open up a church in Charlotte to fix iChurch. God told me, you're opening up a church in Charlotte to expand what I've already started here and take it to a new generation, take it to a new place. And I went and I asked for pastor's permission because that's the first thing you do. You submit to authority. If you're wondering, like, oh, no. I sat down. And if you're here, you're like, oh, well, I think I want to open up a church too. Shut up. You talk to your pastor, you ask for permission, you submit. I said, when you release me, when you're ready. Pastor's a man of faith. He already knew before me. And he told me, you go. iChurch is special, man. This is a unique sweet spot. I love this church. It's a unique sweet spot. iChurch is the most spiritual, intense church that can also cater to all levels of faith. You know how rare that is? You know how rare it is? You're not going to find a more spiritually intense church that is open and caters to every single level of faith. You're going to find, and I'm not here to speak ill about other churches. I'm just here to tell you what I see. You're going to find other churches that are spiritually intense. You're going to find other churches that do spiritually intense things, but they're so intense that sometimes it gets a little unorganized and it gets a little weird. Pastor, don't say that. I'm just telling you the truth. You're going to go and it's going to be a little creepy. Like someone might be, I don't know, like jumping over you or something. Like you're going to see some stuff. In some levels of faith, they're not going to understand it. I'm not criticizing, they're not going to understand it. Or you're going to go to another church. It's not going to be spiritually intense, and it's not going to be weird, but you're not going to feel nothing. Here, you get both. Like, dude, this is such a sweet spot. iChurch is special. This is what I want Casa Viva to look like. This is what I pray to God that Casa Viva can have. And this series that you're in, A Healer in This Place, embodies that. It's a series that starts out by declaring miracles are real and the miracle worker is here. You don't start the year with no goals or resolution. It's challenging, man. It's good. I learned. It's good. I did my series for Casa Viva, and mine were about resolutions. And then all of a sudden, I come, Pastor, what are you talking about? He's like, no, I'm saying that miracles are going to happen. Because this year, we're going to see miracles at iChurch. And we're going to claim it from day one. That's the church you belong to. It embodies that. And so this whole month, I've been talking miracles are real, miracles are real. For this sermon to be effective, you're going to have to accept that premise. You're going to have to accept the premise that miracles are real. I don't have the time today to tell you that miracles are real or to prove to you or to explain to you how miracles are real. If you're not convinced, all I can do, I can't talk about it because I don't have time, but just to give you a resource, there's this man, his name is Brandon Lake. Okay, he has long hair, and he has done a lot of extensive research on this, and he's concluded that the evidence is just too good to not believe. He looked into it, and he's seen metal plates dissolve, cancer disappear, prodigals return, families reunited, and he just said it's just too good to not believe. It's great resource. Word of advice, if you do look it up and you look into it, don't tell him he can't do it. He gets pretty upset. Starts yelling, don't you tell me he can't do it. So just don't cross that line. If you're like, what the heck? It's a Christianese church worship freak joke, okay? Not everybody was going to get it, and I knew it, and I told my wife, she said, don't do it, and I said, I'm going to do it. I shouldn't have done it. Like, all right. Once you accept the premise that miracles are real, and once we're all in the same page that miracles are real, then you can start asking questions. Then I start asking questions that usually people don't like to ask. And I start asking, okay, if miracles are real, let me ask it because nobody wants to say it, but I'm going to say it. Then why so seemingly little? Why? How can we read about it so much, but then physically we don't see it as much? And you guys are in the sweet spot. You see it a lot. More than 99% of churches in America, you see it at iChurch. But still, why so seemingly little? And so I'm going to ask that question. And I'm going to ask, why not you? Miracles are real, and the healer's in this place. Why not you? And I'm going to preach this sermon, and I want to teach you this lesson. I want to go there. Because I see two realities. The first reality, pay attention to this, because I'm going to get back at this. The first reality is written behind me. The second reality is sitting in front of me. And when I put those two together, it's a little conflicting. there's two realities that when I put them together, it's a little conflicting. And I want to teach you how to reconcile those two realities today because I can't stand seeing them together. I want to help you. The title of my sermon today is a mayo nanar sandwich. The title of my sermon today is a mayo nanar sandwich. A mayonnaise and banana sandwich. People say mayonnaise is good. I agree with that. People say bananas are good. I agree with that. The South says that bananas and mayonnaise together are good. That's a bit conflicting, you know? Those are two realities, and they're both real, but when you put them together, they don't make no sense until the Southerner comes up and says, let me show you how these two things are conflicting. Like, let me talk to you about these two truths and see if I can help you, like, reconcile this truth, all right? And I'm going to be honest. Like, this title is a little bit hypocritical because if I now liked banana and mayonnaise sandwiches, then this sermon would make sense. I don't like, no Southerner has been able to reconcile that in my mind. So this illustration is a little flawed because I'm here telling you that I am going to come help you reconcile two truths that don't make sense the way that Southerners reconcile mayo and banana sandwiches, but they haven't reconciled it to me. So it's a little bit hypocritical, but that's what I want to do today. I want to teach you and help you reconcile two realities that when put together are conflicting. The first reality is behind me. The second reality is in front of me. And by the end of the sermon, I want to help reconcile these two truths because I'm a little conflicted by the fact that the healer's in this place. And I'm a little conflicted. I'm a little conflicted with that. So I want to teach you something today, and I want to try to go deep as I can in the next few minutes. And I want to teach you today the three fundamental musts of miracles. Now, we're learning, and we're going to go deep, and I'm going to go fast. The three fundamental musts of miracles. If you're writing, you're taking notes, this is your first note. Three fundamental musts of miracles. What are the three things that must happen in order to see miracles? Now, let me start off by putting a side note. This isn't a formula. I'm not going to teach you a formula on how to get your miracles. I personally don't believe that that's how it works. I don't think there's a formula, and if you check all the boxes, you're going to get a miracle. What I'm teaching you today is not a formula for miracles. It's a foundation of miracles. Pastor, what's the difference? That just because you understand and apply these miracles, it doesn't guarantee that you're going to see a miracle. It just makes a way for it. There are no miracles without these three foundations. These three things need to happen to see miracles. And so what we're going to do is that we're going to look at three specific miracles in the Bible that I believe best resemble my 3 points, and then we're going to study them, okay? And I want you to examine your heart, and I want you to examine your relationship towards miracles to see if you've matched these foundations. Now, before we get to this first point, I got to make a note. I said I'm going to go quick, all right? So you need to get every single word. Before we get to these points, I got to make a quick note. Because I don't get to preach here as often sometimes. So now when I get up here, I got to trip on somebody. It's my chance. And who better to trip on than the new guy that is dating my sister, right? I got to trip on somebody. So let's make a quick note real quick before we go into anything. I was going through some pictures the other day, and man, listen, please, don't get upset, all right? I'm going to be real. Can I be real? Man, is this not the gayest guy you've ever seen? Like, let's zoom into this for a second. Is this not the gayest guy you've ever seen? I mean, from the glasses, from the clothes, look at his smile. I mean, he is so happy. He's so carefree. Like, he's just living life. This dude is extremely gay. Like, I see that. That's just the definition of gay, by the way. The definition of gay is lighthearted and carefree. What were you thinking about? You see the importance of speaking the same language? Like, when we don't speak the same language, we can be talking about something and be completely confused. And unless you know that when I say gay, I'm talking about happy, you're like, oh my gosh, what did Pastor just say? I just called him happy. That's how the word started. And that's all he is, right? He's just a happy guy. And that's what I called him. I said, yo, he's happy. But if your understanding of the word gay is different than the way I'm using gay, we're going to have a real hard time. It's super important for us to understand what we're talking about, because if we're not talking the same language, it's going to be a problem. That's sorry. Got a notification. "13 people just unfollowed me." Freaking Gen Z, man. Stop canceling people. It's just a joke. It's just a joke. Take it easy. Look, we got to get on the same page. Before we start the sermon, we got to get on the same page. We got to know we're talking about the same language. And when I make reference to a word, we got to know we're talking about the same thing. So let's define miracles. Let's just start there. Let's define miracles. What are miracles? For the sake of this sermon, the way that I'm defining miracles, miracles are a divine intervention that magnifies God's greatness. A divine intervention that magnifies God's greatness. And for the sake of this sermon, we're including both the impossible and the improbable. Like, Pastor, why is that important? Because depending on who you talk to, they have different definitions of miracles. And some people define miracles as anything. Anything. Like, a bird flew through. Wow, did you see that miracle? Like, really? And then some people just are so strict with the word miracles that it has to be something impossible. I'm trying to go deep with you guys and tell you there's huge arguments on what is a miracle. Does it need to be something supernatural? Can it be something being worked in the natural? Does it need to be impossible? Can it be improbable? If I were to tell you that as soon as I'm done here, somebody comes and gives me a $10,000 offering just for me. You're like, hey, man, I loved your jacket. Here's $10,000. Is that impossible or improbable? Improbable. Like, it could happen. It's not impossible. But it's improbable. It might not happen. And so some people have arguments on what a miracle is. We're going to include both the impossible and the improbable. And I'm going to teach you the 3 fundamental musts to see a miracle. 3 things that have to happen. 3 things that need to be set in place for God to have a divine intervention that magnifies his greatness, both improbable or impossible. So here's my first point. My first point, we're going to find it in Mark chapter 5, verse 25 to 33. Mark 5, 25 to 33. This is a story of a woman that had a blood flow. Now, she had this blood flow for 12 years. She sought medical attention, and she spent a lot of money trying to heal, but in it, she ended up getting worse and worse and worse. And the Bible tells us this. You can look it up. Here's the reference. I'm narrating for the sake of time. So she heard about Jesus, and she gets the idea born out of faith. That's a sermon right there. But she gets an idea that if she touches his cloak, she will be healed. It's an idea that's born out of faith. Those are the best. And so then she goes and she touches his cloak. Most likely she drags herself through the ground, manages to touch him, and the Bible says that instantly she got healed, and she noticed it. That's a whole nother sermon right there. That her pain was so constant for 12 years that the moment it stopped, she felt the difference. Like, it just happened. Like, she felt the difference and she got healed instantly. Then she tries to leave unnoticed. And we're in verse 30. Let's read. At once, Jesus realized that the power had gone out from him. He turned around in the crowd and he asked, who touched my clothes? And then verse 31, you see the people surrounding you? His disciples answered, and yet you dare to ask us who touched me? What a sarcastic. This must have been Peter. Like, he's just like, he's like, who touched my clothes? And Peter's like, I don't know. It's just a bunch of people here, man. We can't keep them away. I'll wash it. Don't worry. It's just a stain. He's like freaking out. And Jesus kept looking around. He said, no. Somebody did it. And then the woman, knowing what had happened to her, she came and fell at his feet, trembling with fear, and told him the truth. I've always felt that this was kind of mean on Jesus' behalf. Like, maybe you read the Bible and you just don't critically think about it. I critically think about everything. I'm a debater. Like, this is what I do. And I critically think about this. Isn't this mean? Like, she's clearly freaking out. She's super scared. She touched him. There's an argument to be made that what she did was unlawful. The results of her actions by touching Jesus while being unclean could have been what? So all she wants to do is get her little miracle. I'm not going to bother you. I'm just going to get this little miracle right here. Thank you so much. You're awesome. Thank you. And she just wants to walk away. And Jesus is like, hey, who touched me? She's like, and Peter's like, Jesus, just let it go. No, who touched me? Like he wasn't going to leave until somebody gave her an answer. I feel like this is kind of mean. She's freaking out. But Jesus wanted to know, why would Jesus put her in this position? Why not show a little bit of kindness? If she wants to slip out, why not let her slip out? You and her both know what happened. Couldn't that just be enough? No, he stopped and he said, who touched me? Step forward and tell me. And she's freaking out. She comes. First must of all miracles. First must. My first point today. Miracles happen for God to be glorified and his message be delivered. Period. Miracles happen for God to be glorified and his message delivered. If a miracle does not meet this criteria, it will not happen. Pastor, that's pretty strong. It is a no-go. The miracle is not going to happen unless the miracle is going to bring God glory and make a way for his message to be delivered. Every miracle in the Bible, this one we can see it. She's not going to let her go. Why? Because then who takes the glory? So he stops and says, no. This miracle has to bring me glory and my message has to be delivered through it, so I'm going to stop. Listen, let me tell you something about God. God doesn't share his glory. I don't know if at some point you decided to not read that verse because you don't like it because it feels kind of selfish, but it's the truth. God does not share his glory. Pastor, where do you get that from? Isaiah chapter 42, verse 8. Maybe I'm misreading it. You tell me. I am the Lord. This is my name. I will not yield glory to another. I don't know. Maybe we should look it up on Greek and see if it means something else. But that seems pretty clear to me. God does not share his glory. And he will do amazing things upon we will reap benefits, but all for his glory. That's just the greatness of our God. He's good enough and big enough that he can do two things at the same time. First, his glory. Second, we reap benefits. Even in that same verse, Isaiah chapter 42, verse 8. Let me take you 2 verses back. Isaiah chapter 42, verse 6 to 8. What's the context? How did we get to God giving glory? I, the Lord, have called you into righteousness. I will take hold of your mind. I will keep you and will make you to be a covenant for the people and the light of the Gentiles, to open eyes that are blind, to free captives from prisons, to release from the dungeons. He's saying, I'm going to do epic things for you. I'm going to heal. I'm going to open. I'm going to break. I'm going to walk. And by the way, verse 8, it's going to be for my glory. That's what God is saying. I'm going to do amazing things, but it's going to be for my glory. God is so good that when he does something for his glory, even the crumbs that fall out of the table are amazing to us. The problem is when we shift this order upside down. That's when we get into a big problem. Let me give you an example, Josue style. Let me give you an example. And those of you that are not used to my preaching, this is the part that you get lost and be like, how the heck did he get to this point? Has anybody ever been to SeaWorld? Dude, I went to SeaWorld. SeaWorld is something else, man. That place is amazing. Like, it's the most epic park that I've been into. Like SeaWorld and all the shows that they do with the dolphins and with the whales and with all the types of animals. And on top of that, they got roller coasters. It's the best of both worlds. To just a show junkie like me, man, I loved it. How the heck do they train these dolphins? I don't know how to start, right? How do you start? Like, sit. Like, what do you tell a dolphin, man? Like a dog, you'll force him, right? Sit. And you give him a treat. Sit. What do you tell a dolphin? Jump. Jump. Like, what the heck? Sing out. Like, what do you tell him? Dude, SeaWorld, they do epic stuff. They do amazing stuff. Check out, do we got the picture? Put the picture behind me. They do epic stuff. And one of the things that they do, their main attraction is Shamu. I'm pretty sure this is like the 4th Shamu, but they keep calling it the same thing. It's pretty messed up. It's like you have a dog and it dies, and then you get a new one and you name it the same thing. I don't know how you roll, and I don't mean to offend you, but come on, dude. Like, put some other name on the dog. That's kind of not, that's living in denial. Like, Some are laughing and some are pissed. If you're pissed, you probably did it. You probably did it. You probably did it. Don't name it the same thing. But SeaWorld keeps doing the same thing. Shamu, still alive. Yeah. Since the 80s? Like, get out of here. No way. Shamu ain't alive no more. But this is the main attraction out there. Everybody goes to see a killer whale and all of the things that this killer whale can do. I went to SeaWorld, and when I went to SeaWorld, I went to see this show. And as a part of this show, when you go see the Shamu show, there is a section that's for splash. And so Shamu would get towards that section, and she would grab her tail, and she would like grab a ton of water and soak you. Crazy. Now let's imagine something for 1 second. Let's imagine that someone comes to you and says, hey man, guess what? It's like, what? I went to SeaWorld and I got splashed. Big whoop. I went to my grandma's backyard and I got splashed. My grandpa grabbed a bucket and splashed me. Mine was free. Yours was $2,383 to get your family to Orlando. Who cares that you got splashed, right? That's not impressive. I went to SeaWorld and we got splashed. Come here in the next baptism. I'll splash you and drop a $2,000 offering in the plate. Like, that's not a big deal. Big whoop. Somebody comes and tells you that story, you think it's stupid. Like, hey man, I went to SeaWorld and I got splashed. You think it's dumb. The story only means something when they come to you and they say, hey man, I went to SeaWorld and I saw this whale that was so strong and so epic that could take gallons of water with her tail, and I happened to be sitting in the right place, and all that water, I got splashed by Shamu. Then you're like, oh shoot, that's not something you could do here. I'm not going to be able to splash you with Shamu in the baptism. Like, in order for you to get that, you can only get it at SeaWorld, and you can only get it through Shamu. So your story is impressive once you let us know who was the one that did what you received. If not, it don't make no sense. It don't make no sense. You go to the right place, SeaWorld, and some of you are today in the right place. You're seeing the right act, and it's Shamu, and it's God moving in this place, but you're seeking only to get splashed. All that matters to you is to leave this place and say, I got splashed. And God said, when you can change your heart and you can say, I saw God and I got splashed. Oh, that's different. That's different. This guy knows what he's talking about. Look, we do not see more healing because people are more excited about the gift of healing than they are about the broken heart that needs the healing. Healing doesn't make us superheroes. You want the gift of healing? Yes, healing doesn't make us superheroes. It makes us super promoters. When God gives you the gift of healing and somebody gets healed, it's for him to get the glory and his name and his message be delivered in advance. And if it does not, what's the point? We don't see more miracles because the objective of the miracle is to gain God glory. Our objective with the miracle is to gain God's benefit. If you're not witnessing and giving the testimony of what God has done in your life, at some point, God will stop working in your life. I know you don't like that one. Miracles start with your need, but they end with his glory. They start with the thing that you crave. They end with the thing that God wants. But if it starts and ends with your need being met, then God will say, why do I want to work in this guy's life? And I don't know what you're thinking, Pastor, but there's cases that Jesus heals and he tells them not to talk. I'm OCD like that. I can't make a point if I know that there's a counterpoint to my point. So that's why I preach long sometimes. Pastor, but what about then? Jesus was so committed to his message being delivered that if you read it in context, he says that he didn't do a miracle because it wasn't going to help bring him glory. It was actually going to be a distraction to his glory. Ain't it crazy that God knows sometimes that a miracle can be more distracting than helpful? So he tells him, healed, don't tell nobody. Why? Not because God's not going to take glory, but because he tells the wrong way, his message will get distracted, and that's not the point of the miracle. So he sometimes prefers not to do nothing rather than to do something that will take the attention from him. And that's a good God. We don't see more miracles today. You want to see more miracles tomorrow? We ought to start witnessing about yesterday's miracles today. You start witnessing about yesterday's miracles today, and you're going to start seeing more stuff. Look, let me tell you a story. When me and my wife decided that we wanted to plant a church, we lived in Hickory. We were in Hickory, and we said, we got to be in Charlotte. Like, how are we going to plant a church in Charlotte and not live in Charlotte? Like, maybe just didn't make sense. I said, well, let's do it. And without having much, pregnant, we decided to sell the house. We sold the house. We were excited, man. We got a great return. But you sell in this market, you buy in this market. So as excited as we were, I had a prediction. I had it all calculated. The market's going to crash. No, it's not. Like, it's just, it's not going to crash. Not going to crash. So we sold our house, and after we sold our house, we're looking for a house in Charlotte. We've been looking for a house for over a year. We had to get an apartment just because we were months away from the baby being born, and we had nowhere to live. They said, we got to get an apartment. So we got an apartment, and we went in the apartment. We're still looking for houses, and we're putting bids in our houses, and we're putting bids in houses, and they get denied. I know God called me to Charlotte, so I'm assuming, right? Like, help me out. It's a walk in the park. You know, market strong enough for God. So I'm like, he's going to open up. We put an offer. Said, this is it. Decline. First, we start old school market, bidding under. Dude, that don't work anymore. Marlon told me, right? I've been working with Marlon. I was like, Marlon, how much they want? Pastor, they want 190. Let's start it at 150. Pastor, they have 5 offers. It's 270. Faith, Marlon. Faith. Dude, we kept putting bids in, kept getting rejected. We went to a house. When we finally got the picture, we were like, man, we're just going to have to play ball. So we went to a house, and Marlon said, you want this house? I want this house. Marlon said, what you want to do? And I said, bid $38,000 over. And Marlon's like, are you sure? It's like, this is ours, $38,000 over. We still got beat. You think Hickory's nuts? Charlotte is nuts. You can't buy no house in Charlotte. I was like, we were freaking out. Our apartment lease is almost over, literally 20 days from being over. It ends in February 15th. We haven't moved to Charlotte yet. We still don't have a house. We have to recommit. We can't find an apartment that's affordable in Charlotte because anywhere that is safe is $1,400, $1,500 up for a studio. And we're thinking, we're like, oh my God, what are we going to do? And we're freaking out. And then all of a sudden, this house pops up. And it had some crazy stuff. It was subject to court approval, and somebody was suing somebody, and you had to go through court and whatever. It was a mess. I had no idea what we were doing. Neither did Mom. We never dealt with that case. And so we said, all right, let's just do it. So I went to court, I hustled, I figured it out, and I put in a bid. When you put in a bid, there's 10 days for somebody else to upset the bid. Works kind of like a foreclosure. And so you put in this bid, and then for the next 10 days, you know nothing. Like literally, they don't call you, they don't tell you, hey, no, you got to call. Hey, am I still winning? Yeah, you're still winning, sir. Thank you. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Like you don't know what's happening. You don't know. You put in the bid and you just wait. I put in the bid, and for 10 days, I was stressing so freaking much. I don't know, because these are 10 days that is eating the clock of my 20-day lease term. And at the end of the 10 days, like, oh, you lost. Great. Now I lost 10 days. So I'm freaking out, and we're putting off, and for 10 days I stressed. I didn't sleep. I turned. I was like, what am I going to do with my family? I'm my dad. I got to take my kid. What am I going to? And I'm freaking out. And all of a sudden, at the end of 10 days, we give a call. Marlon calls me, 8 in the morning. I answered. He said, hey, Pastor, after a year and something, congratulations, you got the house. Woo! First thing I did, I turned around and I said, all right, man, now we got to get to work. And the Holy Spirit was like, what? I literally felt like he came down into bed and he stood like a gangster beside me. He was like, what? What did you just think? I know your thoughts, man. You've been stressing for 10 days. You get the news that the house is yours. And you celebrate for 10 minutes? Now you're on to the next problem. Thank you, God. Can we work on this next thing? It's like, are you kidding me? I looked at the Holy Spirit. I said, man, how nuts is it that negative, worldly, messed up thoughts can wander in our minds for so long and positive thoughts are washed away like nothing? Washed away like hickory snow. Like, come on. Are you kidding me? And I told my wife, I'm going to celebrate for 10 days. For 10 days, I stressed out. Every single day, I'm going to find someone new, and I'm going to be like, Wes, I got a house, man. Wes going to be like, so? God gave me a house, Wes. I'm going to celebrate. I know I'm going to be like, I'm not going to try to walk away like that woman unnoticed. Because I know my God, and he deserves glory for what he did. You could think, oh, that wasn't God, that was your offer. I know that was God. Improbable, impossible, yeah, I know that was God. And I'm going to celebrate for 10 days. I'm going to get hyped up for 10 days. You see what God did in my life? You see what God did in my life? Oh, I got a house. Baby, we got a house. Alien, we got a house. Woo-hoo! We got a house, man. Jesus stopped me and he said, hey, who touched me? And I'm always like, I touched you, Jesus. Is there anybody in the room? If Jesus were to ask right now, who touched me? I wonder, is there anybody in the room that would stand up and say, I touched you, Jesus. I touched you. I had an idea, and you came through with my idea. Ah, I touched you, Jesus. I touched you, Jesus. I'm going to testify, man. I'm going to testify. As soon as he gave me the house, I said, I got to find a place to preach, and I got to sing a song. Hey, Pastor, what do you mean a song? There's a song in Spanish. That was the first thing that popped into my mind. I didn't even tell the musicians, nobody's ready, nobody's going to play with me. I don't care. The song in Spanish. And the song in Spanish is a party, dude. When people sing this song, it's an old school song. And when we sing it, whoo, it's wild, man. It's Latinos going nuts. Yeah, as if we weren't already. We sing this song in church, Latino. We sing this in ranchera. It's just like something's going to go down. Listen, I love this song. Mira lo que ha hecho Dios. Mira lo que ha hecho Dios. Tocó mi mente, me sanó. Justo a tiempo me salvó. Y a su nombre alabaré. Todos los días lo haré. Ven a alabarle. Mira lo que ha hecho Dios. Pastor, what are you saying? I'm going to hook you up. I'm going to hook you up. I'm going to hook you up. Keep it going. I'm going to hook you up. Aurelia, you got me? You got me? I'm going to hook you up. I'm going to hook you up. This key is too high for me. It doesn't matter. I'm going to hook you up. Put it up for me, Aurelia. Put it up for me. Look. I'm going to tell you what this song says. I'm going to tell you what this song says. Look at what my God has done. Look at what my God has done. He touched my brain. He healed my heart. Right on time, he called my name. Now I will praise his name. Every day I'll praise his name. Come and worship. Look what God has done. Woo! Come and worship. Look what God has done. Has God done something in your life, church? Has God done something in your life? Oh! Look at what my God has done. Look at what my God has done. He touched my brain. He healed my heart. Right on time, he called my name. Woo! Now I will praise him. Who touched me, says Jesus. I touched you. Who touched me, says Jesus. Who touched me, says Jesus. We got a house, baby. Woo! We're moving to Charlotte. We're planning a church. The first must of every miracle is that God needs to be glorified and his message delivered. And if you don't want to do that, then you can say bye-bye to your miracle. Sit down, sit down. 3 musts, 1 down, 2 to go. Shoot. Second must, Matthew 8, chapter 1 to 3. Let's go. Let's speed this up. Second must, Matthew chapter 8, verse 1 to 3. This is the miracle where I find the second must. When Jesus came down from the mountainside, large crowds followed him. A man with leprosy came and knelt before him and said, Lord, if you're willing, make me clean. Lord, if you are willing, you can make me clean. Verse 3, Jesus reached out his hand and touched him and said, I am willing, be clean. Immediately, he was cleansed by his leprosy. This man understood that neither Jesus' ability nor his knowledge of Jesus' ability were enough to prevent the miracle, but his will was. Turn on the lights, turn on the lights. I'm not gonna finish right now. Turn on the lights. Give me a minute. I'll go fast, I promise. This man understood that neither God's ability to heal him nor his knowledge of God's ability was going to stop the miracle. In other words, he had the faith, he had the knowledge, but he was seemingly okay with the fact that God's will can still overpower both. Read it. Read it. Lord, if you are willing, you can make me clean. It's not a question. He's saying it. He knows it. But he also knows that God's will prevails. Let me tell you the second thing about all miracles. His will prevails over all things. First, every miracle must glorify God and help deliver his message. Second, his will prevails above all things. Becomes a debate. I'm going to talk about that in Spanish. It's a different sermon. It becomes a debate. What happened? Little faith? God's will? How does it work? What's the pecking order? At the top of the pecking order is God's will. It's what he wants. You can have all the faith in the world the way this man did. No questions. You can heal me. But he still understood that God's will can override that certainty. Look, let me tell you something. God doesn't have a problem with not doing the miracle. You do. God doesn't. God doesn't have a problem with not doing the miracle. He is sleeping in the downstairs boat, and the storm ain't bugging him one bit. It's bugging you. You have a problem with it. And you know what's crazy? That I compare that with God does have a problem with you not acting on faith. We don't. That sermon is for Spanish, though. I'm not going to talk about that. Pastor, what do you mean? That sermon, I'm going to talk in Spanish about that concept that God does have a problem with us not acting in faith, but we don't. If you want to understand the second part, you got to come to Spanish. Pastor, I don't know Spanish. Make a friend in the lobby, okay? Our church is that multicultural. Like, make a friend in the lobby, and now you have a friend that speaks Spanish, French, Hmong, like, I don't know. He said, you got it. You got it. When you understand that God's will prevails over all things, you will find out that the real success is being in God's will rather than bending it to your favor through miracles. I told you I got to go fast on this one, so you just got to let it sink in. If you understand that God's will prevails over all things, you will find that true success is being in his will rather than finding a way of bending it with your mustard seed. To my will. Didn't God send Moses to Pharaoh knowing that Pharaoh was going to reject him and told him, the miracle that I'm sending you to go get, I'm also not giving you, and you still got to go. Because your success isn't convincing Pharaoh. Your success is obeying me in spite of Pharaoh not saying yes to you. And if you were to understand that, you will realize my success isn't in getting what I think I want. My success is in living in what I know God wants. Let me open up your eyes a little bit. You know what you're really frustrated at? It's not that God's will is not lining up to yours, but rather how little you know him to be able to know it and accept it as it is. I'll kind of let that one sink in because I know that one's a little confusing. Let me put it to you to read it. Our real frustration, what you're really frustrated at, isn't that God's will is not lining up to yours. What you're really frustrated and mad at is not that God's not giving you the miracle that you think you should get. What you're really frustrated at is not that you put in an offer, $38,000 over bid, and the house fell through. Deep down inside, what you're really frustrated at is the fact that you don't know Him enough to understand His will enough and accept it for what it is. What you should be mad, Pastor, what are you saying? That what you should be mad at is not that His will is not lining up to yours, is that you don't know His will. If you did, it wouldn't bother you. I'm trying to help you. I'm trying to help change your mind. If you did know God's will and you truly love Him for who He is, how would it bother you? If you truly knew Jesus, you wouldn't be upset at the fact that Jesus doesn't want to break the wall that you're asking Him to break. Because you would be smart enough and wise enough to know that if He's not breaking this wall, there must be something on the other side of the wall that's not for me. So even though it makes my flesh mad, my spirit rejoices at the fact that I know Him, and if He says no, I better take the no. I should just take the no. I'd rather take the no. Or does someone disagree with me? Does someone think here, would you like for God to open up the door that He doesn't want to open for you? You want that. To all the young people in the room, look, I have a heart for youth, Pastor. The last 2 weeks, I've been dealing with nonstop phone counselings 3-4 times a week, 3-4 times a day, because this boyfriend and girlfriend couple, and the girlfriend wants to leave him. And he's torn up. Crying, oh, I don't know what I'm going to do. He's crying, trying to instill confidence in him. I'm telling him, yo, your problem is that you're dragging yourself for this girl. You got to give yourself some respect. He said, what do you mean? And I said, man, are you a good boyfriend? I said, yeah. Are you romantic to her? Yeah. Would other girls would love to have you? And he was like, yeah, I think so. I was like, are you kind? Are you funny? Are you smart? Yeah. Do you love God? Yes, I love God. So let me ask you a question, kid. I'm super confident in my advice. So let me ask you a question, kid. If she leaves you, who loses? Me! He said, straight up. Straight up. I said, me! I lose. He started crying. I was dealing with him because I believe that the problem with us and the reason that we hit with youth so much is because we don't really take serious their problems. You don't remember that. At that time, that was the whole world to you. Now, you're using your wisdom to be unkind. You're using your life experiences to be cold-hearted. That means something to the kid. So I'm taking my time and I'm talking and I'm taking and I'm counseling and I'm talking and I'm counseling. And at some point I remembered, and I've told this story before, those times that I prayed and I begged God to please give me this girlfriend and make her my wife. I was 9. I was 9 years old, and I would pray fervently. I know what praying fervently is because I did it for this girl. I fervently, God, please let this girl be my wife. And God said, no. Now, hindsight is 20/20, so I'm like, thank you, God, for not opening that door. Right? Pastor, where are you going with all this? Maybe I'm too ideal. But I want what God wants for me more than I want what I want for me. So when things don't go my way, what I'm really mad at is not that they didn't go my way. What I should be really mad at is the fact that I don't understand why it didn't go my way because I'm not in touch and in constant communication with God to understand why He didn't make it go that way. Have you ever talked to a pastor or talked to someone, you present them a situation and you talk to pastor, 5 minutes later, pastor has flipped the situation on you and now it makes complete sense? You're like, man, that makes sense. It's because that pastor is in touch with God and from a distance he can see God's will being better than yours. But why do you need a pastor to do it? Why can't you do it? Didn't He die on the cross and say, come confidently into the throne of God? You're really mad at, Pastor, what are you saying? What you're really mad at is that you don't understand the plans that are coming out of his mouth. What you're really mad at is that 1 John chapter 5, verse 14, what you're truly mad at in 1 John chapter 5, 14, is that your prayers are never answered. But what you're truly mad at is that you don't know God's will, and so you're not praying according to it, and so he's not hearing you because he loves you enough to not hear you because you're not praying on his will, and that's what you're really mad at. That's what you're really frustrated at. His will prevails over all things. That's a must for miracles. His will prevails above all things. And if you understand that concept, you would know. Third must. No way I'm going to give you third must. Pastor, what are you talking about? I got to wrap this up. It's 11:40. I got to wrap this up. Here's my conclusion. Let me end. Cut. Cold cut. Let me end. Cut and dry. You want to know the third point? I told you, make a friend in the lobby. I'll preach it in Spanish. Pastor, what's your conclusion? The mayonnaise and banana sandwich, man. I'm still bothered by the mayonnaise and banana sandwich. Pastor, why am I teaching you all this? Why did I start talking about a mayonnaise and banana sandwich? Because I told you that there are two realities that when put together, they are conflicting, and I want to help. I want to help those two realities be able to reconcile, because right now, they're not reconciling. Something's not clicking, and it's driving me nuts. From the moment they told me, come preach, I said, what's the series? Healer in this place. If you haven't paid, let me give you pastor's lifesaver. If you haven't paid attention to anything in the sermon, here you go, buddy. Pay attention to this end, and you'll be fine. I used to love those, man. I don't know. I used to love when pastor said, if you haven't paid attention to any of this sermon, oh, thank God. I can Let me throw you a lifesaver. If you haven't paid attention to anything, just pay attention to these last 5 minutes. I'm a dad now. And there's something about my kid, man. Like, put up the picture. There's something about my kid. There's something about him that worries me tremendously. Pastor, what? He looks and he acts too much like me. Not physically. Physically, I have it publicly accepted. He's a clone of my wife. You don't have to tell me. You don't have to bring it up to me. Just go away, all right? I know he looks just like Hannah. I know. I'm okay with it. I've made my peace with it. Make yours, okay? But character-wise and attitude-wise, he's just like me. And that worries the crap out of me. He's too stubborn, man. He is so strong-willed. It's nuts. And it's my fault. Because I've been declaring since the moment God told me that we were pregnant, I've been declaring over his life that he is to be a creative, wise commander. I've been declaring this since the moment. I said, God, you know how in the Bible names mean something? And I said, God, what do I declare over this kid's life? And God said, declare over him that he is going to be creative like his dad, he is going to be wise like his mom, and he's going to be a commander like his grandparents. A creative, wise commander. I've been praying that he walks into a room when he's a leader of a church and he commands respect through his wisdom and creativity. That he has new ways of doing things, but not only can he come up with the innovative thing like his dad, he can also come up with the plan to see that innovative thing come true like his mom. And then he can convince other people to be a part of it like his grandpa and his grandma. Because he's a commander. And I've been saying he's my creative, wise commander. And I've been declaring that over his life. Now, he's super strong-willed. Like legit, I have not seen a kid this strong-willed. He hates medicine so much that at will, he'll make himself throw up. Pastor, you're kidding. I will show you the videos. Not today because I don't want nobody to get grossed out or whatever. But is it true? Is it not true? When we put medicine in him, at first we had to convince him and did all the little tricks, like put it in the passy and do this and put it in the bottle nipple. And we tried it all and it wasn't working. And I said, you know what? Let's go Puerto Rican style, baby. And she said, what are we going to do?